From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Brayden Neville.
Welcome to this episode of Ticats Today for this Thursday, February 1st, 2024. I'm Brayden Neville saying hello on this first day of February. On today's episode, I speak with Ticats GM Ed Hervey about some of the moves he's made so far in his first offseason as the GM of the Ticats, including the blockbuster trade that happened earlier in the week between the Ticats and the Argos that saw linebacker Jordan Williams make his way down the QEW here to the Hammer. So without further ado, we're going to throw to our interview with Ticats GM Ed Hervey. Joining me now is the general manager for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Ed Hervey. Ed, thanks for coming on during what must be a pretty busy time for you and the rest of that front office.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. We're working hard and just preparing for the week ahead of us, a couple weeks ahead with Communication Week and free agency.
I want to jump into the big news this week. The Ticats swapping multiple picks with the Argos, and the Ticats received the biggest piece of the trade, Jordan Williams. Why did you decide to go out and get a player you drafted back in 2020?
Well, with us, when our plan going into this process was how can we strengthen our national depth. Obviously, we would love to have a guy who can change the ratio. And part of our plan was we had major discussion about, obtaining a second round pick. So it was a combination of that, where we look at Jordan Williams as an opportunity to come in, give us some flexibility with respect to the ratio. Whereas where you're going into free agency, you can end up chasing guys and it doesn't come to fruition. So the philosophy there was just to have the bird in hand and believe that, not only that Jordan is an excellent player and his resume speaks for itself, but again, going into free agency is so unpredictable. We just wanted a little more consistency with our roster going into that process, where our targets have become more of somewhat of a luxury rather than a necessity. And Jordan gives us that. And then the second component of that being the second round pick, with an eye on future development of the national players moving forward, and just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of what the draft potentially has in store for us, and just start building this roster that way and taking our time and looking at it with respect to getting the best players on the roster with a more methodical process, building through the draft. And as you know, and as our fans know, and people across the league know, that the top two rounds of the draft, usually present the strongest of the players that have the opportunity to start. And then obviously there's guys in the back end that definitely prove to be that as well. But we wanted to increase our odds by, picking in the top 15, 16 picks of this draft.
What have you seen in his progression since you drafted him back in 2020? I mean, he came out of the gates flying. He broke the rookie record for tackles. But what have you seen from him throughout the last few years of being in the CFL and his growth as a player?
Obviously, you see his patience, being on the field. The CFL game was different than what he's played in the U.S. And obviously, he adapted really well. He knows. He has a nose for the football. He understands his, reading keys on the offensive line. He's a fearless player. I think that the fact that he is, just as versatile player as he is, where he can go inside and out. He has range. He's just an all-around player that has matured. But I think the biggest thing that I've noticed in watching him is that the game has seemed to slow down for him, where his he just understands the CFL game more, and that comes with experience and time, and he's proven that. And we're just excited about the opportunity to have him on our football team. And we feel like when we were able to obtain him, we felt like we got better that day. It was a cause for a small celebration, but there's a lot of work ahead.
Definitely a big acquisition. It's going to be exciting to see him come May. You brought back several members of that O-line, Brandon Revenberg, Jordan Murray, Coulterwood Manzi, Brandon Kemp. The list goes on and on, but how important was it for you to solidify that O-line and get some continuity heading into next season in front of your quarterbacks?
Absolutely. I think that, we all understand that in order to win in the CFL, you have to be strong up front, right? The game is won and lost at the line of scrimmage. And the continuity in those positions was extremely important for us. Rev and Coulter, Jordan, those guys are guys that we see as very important players moving forward. We feel like their experience, not only as in this league, but their experience together, is going to bode well for us moving forward. But they're also not just protecting the quarterback, but their physicality in the run game.
Yeah,
we were able to have a successful 1,000-yard rusher behind this group. So we feel like with respect to that group, it was important for us to have as much continuity as possible. We don't feel like we're that far off with respect to making ourselves an elite football team, but we didn't want to have to start over with the offensive line, especially with the guys that we have that we feel very confident that we can get the job done with that group.
yeah, it was a great group, and like you said, with James Butler and how successful he was last year, it just goes to show how well those guys were playing in front of him. Felix Garand Gauthier, another familiar face, returning to the Ticats, re-signed. What steps would you like to see him make next year, and what was the process like to get him back?
I think with Felix, obviously he's a guy that everyone respects in this organization. He's developing every day. We expect another leap with respect to him, not only on the offense, obviously his strength and special teams, but we also expect him to be a very big part of our running game, right? As far as, helping with the system blocking and, bringing the physical portion of the game and his continuity as well, right? He understands the offense. He's familiar with the organization. Continuity being big for us in this organization. And Felix is a guy that, he's one of those guys that, you know what you're getting. He's consistent. He's well liked, as mentioned, and I can see him as one of those guys that the silent captain type, right? Guys respect him. He's committed to being the best, and again, throughout the process, it was we looked at it, making sure that we don't lose our solid and really good Canadian players. We want to build continuity there, and that's another pillar of what we're trying to do is strengthen our national content in depth, and he provides that, and we know what we're getting rather than chase the market for a player of his caliber. We had him in house, and we felt that he was again very important to our process moving forward.
Yeah, great to see GG back. One signing that was really interesting to me is receiver Cameron Batson. Was he a guy that was on your radar for the last little while? I mean, he's a big player. He's played a lot of NFL games, but was he a guy that you've had your eye on for quite some time now?
Yeah, I think the department has had him on the radar for quite some time. I think there was a couple of opportunities where we were close in last season to bring him up, but the timing, as you know, when it comes to some players, it's all about the timing. And as it sits right now with Tyreek, down in the NFL, and Cameron coming up and signing with us, again, the timing. We feel like in a case like this, giving him an opportunity to start his career with a training camp and getting a full-on understanding of the CFL game from the signing all the way through to camp just gives us a great chance to look at him, gives him a better opportunity to showcase his skills for weeks rather than showing up in the middle of the season where, it's generally more difficult to crack the lineup because things are in motion. We're expecting big things out of him, and obviously, it's his opportunity to showcase. But we're definitely excited about his signing.
What's the scouting report on him? What kind of player is he? And for those people who haven't watched him play.
Well, again, he's a very explosive player. He has the ability to make plays. He's a return specialist, so he can do both. He's has very good hands. As far as routes are concerned, he can get in and out of breaks. He's very explosive with the ball in his hands. I think he's the kind of guy that for us, just being able to utilize his skill sets in so many different factions, is just going to make life difficult for our opponents. But again, with the ball in his hands, he's a guy that can shake guys in a phone booth if he needed to escape. I think our fans will be excited with his arrival. And again, it's just one of those opportunities where we look at it. It's we give the opportunity. The player must take advantage of it. But our expectation is that he will come in and live up to every bit of the hype that comes with him.
Well, definitely looking forward to seeing him. The final guy that sticks out to me that I wanted to ask you about is a recent signing, quarterback Kevin Thompson. He spent a bit of time with the Lions. I believe injuries are kind of what ended that. But what do you see out of him, and what do you think the potential is for a guy like that with the Ticats?
Yeah, I think that with the quarterback position, we just want to provide depth and guys who have some experience. Obviously, there's going to be a few more opportunities for guys to be signed in that position. I've known Kevin for a while. He's a player that understands the quarterback position. He's thrown a lot of passes. He's been a player of the year in his conference. He's the right skill set for the CFL. The unfortunate thing about him when in his last stop in BC was he did get injured. And then he's kind of traveled around since then. We've maintained communication, and this is an opportunity that I feel that he's deserving of, and would love to see him go out there and compete. He knows that it isn't something that's being given to him, but again, he gets an opportunity to compete, and I don't think he will embarrass himself out there. And I feel like with the amount of time that's between now and getting to know the staff and having an opportunity to really see the game. And plus, he's had some experience in the CFL game, so it won't be foreign to him. Again, it's an opportunity to build depth and see what we can, where we can improve with respect to depth at the quarterback position.
Well, Ed, thanks for joining me today. Lots going on in Hamilton. I know these next few weeks are going to just keep getting busier and busier for you, so I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me. So once again, thanks a lot, Ed Hervey.
Absolutely, Brayden. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
That was Ticats GM Ed Hervey, and he will have a busy couple months ahead of him for sure, but always great to pick his brain about some of these signings and trades the Ticats have been making so far this offseason. That's all the time for today's episode, but be sure to tune in tomorrow as I will be speaking with Ticats head coach Scott Milanovich. Thanks for listening, Oski Wee Wee, and we will see you next time.